All right, yes, good morning, and welcome to Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. This is the part where we get to talk about major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. I won't be doing this alone. My name is Mobola Sandra. I'll be joined by Saheed Fuhad via the phone line, who'll be giving analysis to the stories that we're going to be looking through this morning. We'll do this up until 8:30. And then by 8:40, we'll move on to Midland Focus, where we'll be looking at two or more major trending stories, try to flesh things out and bring you on board to share your thoughts and contribution as regards what we're going to be looking through this morning. It's a beautiful day. As some people would say, it's Judgment Day. Well, it is Judgment Day. I don't know who are the people that are people excited, are people anxious? What exactly is the mood of Nigerians right now as we get to know the final verdict as regards the February 25 presidential election that was held in Nigeria? It's going to be an interesting one. But of course, as usual, as always, Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos, is committed to ensuring that you stay up to date, which means that as soon as, the process goes on air, we try to, connect you live. You get to hear everything live. We'll do what we can. However, for a proper analysis and proper breaking down of the facts of the process, join us by 4 p.m. in the Situation Room. Saheed, Fuhad and I will be joining 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗪 in the room to discuss, let's go forward. But, there's something that Barrister Curtis has been saying for a few days now, managing your expectations. I think it's since the elections itself. It's not just, the Judgment Day in itself. I mean, since the election in itself, the results of whatever is going to happen, let's all manage our expectations. Let's stay calm. Whatever happens, however it happens, let's just, take chill pills and let's see how we can move forward as a country. But Fuhad, Saheed, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you feeling, Fuhad? Are you anxious? Are you curious? What exactly is your feeling? It's Judgment Day.
Well, it's Judgment Day. It's D-Day today. I'm sure before midday or maybe before 4 o'clock today, it all be sorted out. We'll have the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal deliver judgment on all of the cases, and then we can move to the next level. I don't know. I don't know whether I'm feeling excited, whether I'm a bit different. I think maybe my anxiety is coming from the fact that I'm a journalist and we need to monitor what happens, and then, of course, get people properly informed about the decision of the court today.
Well, there's a lot that we're looking forward to. I mean, there's preparation everywhere, especially at the high courts. Preparation everywhere. Everybody's just calm. Let's just stay calm. As Fuad was saying, manage your expectations. We'll see how things will turn out. But just as we mentioned, not to worry. Just in case you're on the road and you'd like to know what exactly is happening, what is going on, Mainland 98.3 FM is your sure source for the facts, the rights of it. All right. So just stay tuned. As soon as it goes, as soon as it starts, as soon as we can. All right. Of course, we will tune in and you get to hear everything as it goes down. But then for analysis and breakdown of the conversations, it's going to be an extended version of Situation Room by 4 p.m. So join all three of us as we have this conversation. We'll open up the phone line as well for you to share your thoughts also. Now let's move on to the trending stories for today across the papers. We have The Guardian, Vanguard, New Telegraph and the Punch newspaper. What are the major trending stories aside from the PEPC Judgment Day? Of course, we'll start with The Guardian newspaper. The major headline there: subsidy returns as federal government leverages NNPC to manage shocks. Now, very important. Returns is in parentheses. Is in quotes now. So I will know what exactly, because there's no official announcement as regards that. But Fuad, we've been having a conversation that if dollar has risen, there's issue with scarcity of dollar and all of that, how then are the marketers able to still sell well and still buy at that exorbitant price? So we've been having that conversation as regards has there been a secret return of
You know what, Sandra? Again, a fantastic report from the Guardian newspaper. I read through the entire story this morning. There are a lot of figures to deal with. But what I think we need to spend some more time on this particular story. If you dig into it, it becomes very clear why people are saying subsidy is back. The report is unambiguous for anybody that wants to get the full details. I'm sure your best bet this morning is to get the Guardian newspaper to pick all of this information. The reality is that Sandra's subsidy is back. Again, I'm sure if you start to dig into it, we'll begin to talk about the figures and the reality of subsidy payments at this time. I think what the government is doing is to manage the situation. Remember the last time the government said that, look, it was a deregulated market, but they are going to ensure that interventions will come to ensure prices of PMS remains the way they are now. The reality is that something is going on. The government is leveraging on the NNPC. And I think with all of the facts that have been put forward and that we have been talking about, quietly subsidy is back, Sandra. But let's dig into the story. You understand why I'm saying that?
Thank you very much. Well, there are indications that the federal government may have returned subsidy payment on premium motor spirit, PMS, using the supposed commercialized Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to manage the market shocks and maintain monopoly of the downstream segment of the nation's oil and gas industry. So, what this is telling us is that according to analysis, about 318 billion naira monthly losses are now recorded on petrol and may be calculated as under recovery by the supposed NNPCL. Similarly, development has played out under former administration where government secretly returned subsidy and called it under recovery in NNPC books. Usually, the Federation account suffers it. The fund is usually deducted from NNPC, makes any remittance into the account meant for the 3 tiers of government. Fuhad, can we relate this to the amount that NNPC says that the federal government is owing it, about 1.38 trillion?
0.8 trillion.
Yes.
0.8 trillion, yeah. Okay, Sandra, again, I'm sure there are about 2 or 3 more paragraphs in that story that captures everything we're talking about. I just want you to read it out and then I can dissect the issue properly. Like I said, the figures are there, the idea is clear. But let's take like 2, 3, 4 more paragraphs from the story again, and then you understand where I'm coming from this morning.
All right. So, as it is now, in mid-August, the president stated that despite the deregulation of the downstream market, the current petrol price would remain unchanged, as there are no immediate plans to raise fuel prices. Now, as of last week of August, PMS was trading for $1,030, yes, per metric ton. At the international market. PMS.
Okay.
At the international market, compared with the $859 it traded around July. When
so price of PMS has gone up in international market. Let's go on.
Okay. All right. So this shows an increase of 19.8%. When the exchange rate in July was 800, but now the exchange that's 820 naira per dollar. It is now 920 naira to $1.
Dollars has also gone up. All right, so
indicating an increase of about 12%. So crude oil price in July was 78. Now this is crude now, not PMS. The crude oil price in July was $78 per barrel. And it has gone to
88.5 now,
and it is 88 yes, thank you. But yesterday it was 90.
It has gone to 90 now, almost 1,800.
Almost 1,800. Also, so while the price per liter at the international market in July was about 604 or 641 cents or so, and stood at in the 7, that also increased. This means that the landing cost of PMS stands at about 728 naira per liter, compared to when it was 529 naira in July. And let us add also, we have freight cost, we have lightering cost, we have distribution margin, ancillary cost by the NNDPRA, Nigerian Port Authority, NEMASA, as well as marketers margin stands at about 90 naira to 105 naira. By implication of all of this combined, the pump price of PMS should hover between 818 naira and 833 naira per liter, depending on your city of residence. So with this development, the average subsidy on every litre is about 200 naira per litre. Hello? Hello? All right. We'll try to reconnect back with Fuhad Saheed, but this is quite an interesting discovery. Well, it's not much of a discovery because we have been having conversations around this for quite some time now, that if dollar is this certain amount, if crude is being bought or sold at this certain amount, and we still have freight costs and all of that to also be a part of, then how come we're still paying this certain amount? So who is paying that difference to the marketers? All right, because as it is now, the current pump price, when it's compared with other deregulated products in the country, the price of kerosene, jet fuel, and all of that, kerosene is selling between 800 and 900 naira per litre. If you combine it with PMS, that is not subsidized. All right, there's just so much to pick out of all of this. We'll try to reconnect with Fuhad so as he gives his own analysis of this story. Well, NNPC unofficially has been told to subsidize PMS. This is coming, I'm quoting now from the report. And there is a whole lot to just pick from this. Moman, which had regularly provided a pricing update, had suspended it. There's no pricing update from Moman as of now. A source at the organization said there's an instruction not to share the update because the government has said there will be no price increase. So because they have said that, they want to stick by that. Well, let's give Fuhad his analysis. Hello.
Yes, Sandra, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's just make it very simple for our listeners this morning. What has happened with all of the figures we're giving out? The price of PMS across the world is rising because the price of crude is also rising. I think in almost a decade now, crude is selling at an all-time high, getting close to $100 per barrel. PMS has also gone up. And if you look at the price of PMS in other countries too, that are not oil producing, you understand that as it is, the landing cost of PMS in Nigeria now, if you put all of the calculations together, freight cost, landing, a whole lot of costs that are dollarized as we speak. Also looking at the fact that dollar is about 920, dollars to a naira now, to a dollar. The reality is that the government is leveraging on the NNPC. The idea of an open market, free market, market forces, for me, is all 𝗵𝗃. The reality is that the government is monitoring and trying to sustain the current pricing of PMS, leveraging on the capacity of the NNPC. Sandra, the reality of what we have now is that the NNPC is still like the sole importer of PMS. You know that a lot of the people that got the import license have said they have not been able to do anything because of lack of access to forex. So basically, a lot of them still depend on the capacity of the NNPC to import in this product. So what happens is that, look, the margin is what the NNPC takes care of. Their remittances to the government would not, would have to capture the difference. So instead of them, for example, to remit maybe 500 billion to the government, they look at that margin and take care of the margin, the remittances to government. Sandra, that in itself indicates that subsidy is back. Again, we need to ask ourselves, the forex that NNPC is using to import, is this as a parallel market or are they getting it at a subsidized official rate? Is it the IEI window they are using to get their forex? So the reality of what we have, if we are going to, because again, we are talking about international market pricing for PMS products now and crude oil. What we have now is that the government is quietly leveraging on the NNPC to take care of the margin, to keep the price of PMS at what it is now. If it is truly about a deregulated market and an open market where market forces are supposed to determine pricing, Sandra, PMS in Nigeria now should be selling for well over 700 naira. It should be around 800 and something naira per litre. The government knows that's too dangerous allowed to happen at this time. So what they are doing now is quietly returning subsidy, leveraging on the NNPC. And that's the fact of that story. Like I said, people can go get the Guardian newspaper to really dig into the story to understand where we're coming from this morning.
All right, thank you for that. So what about, the trillions of naira that we have we have, or we may or may not have saved in the past 3 months?
No, our savings will reduce, Sandra. The remittances to the government from the NNPC will drop, because what they will do is to take care of the margin. So whatever we're expecting from the NNPC now would have to drop. You understand what I'm saying? Because they have to take care of these margins to keep the price of PMS at this level. You know, when the government said, oh, there's no plan to increase PMS pricing, you know, experts have asked them, if you say it's a deregulated market, why are you intervening? If you understand what I'm saying. If you say it's a deregulated market, it's an open market where market forces are supposed to determine pricing, why are you intervening? You are not supposed to even talk about. You should just be the market forces who are majorly the importers that should determine pricing. So what it means is that whatever we are thinking we'll save before, as a result of subsidy removal, will drop, because the NNPC will now have to find a way to take care of the margin. If you look at the figures from the Guardian newspaper, we are now doing about 10 billion per day, doing about almost 310 billion per month. We are almost back to the pre-subsidy removal era, Sandra, where we're doing about 400 billion per month. Now, what we are doing is about 310 billion per day. You know, the last figure the NNPC gave us was that our daily consumption is still about 51 million liters per day. So, Sandra, we are gradually going back to where we started from. And that's why we kept telling the government, before you remove subsidy the way you wanted to remove it, were they not supposed to have put something in place, fix the refineries, get us to have, you know, self-sufficiency in terms of local refining capacity? Sandra, what it now means is that Nigerians have suffered in vain if this is allowed to happen. If subsidy is allowed to return, it meant that, look, all of the months of suffering now has been gained, because we are now seeing an indication that subsidy is gradually coming back, and we are getting back to the era before subsidy was removed. We are doing 10 billion naira per day now, about 310 billion naira per month. What is the difference now? What is now the difference? What is then the advantage of the decision that was taken by government?
Well, there's a lot of reactions here, you know, from different stakeholders in the oil sector. Of course, a lot of reactions, I'll put it that way, as NNPC now. Marketers are lamenting ability to import as NNPC maintains monopoly with forex access. I think we've had that conversation as well last week. Yes, how are they getting the forex? However, we'll get to marketers have raised concerns that there was no transition plan in place before subsidy was removed. Some of them predicted the current situation where foreign exchange crisis would humble the much trumpeted deregulation of the downstream sector.
That's it.
It all still boils down to that question that we're asking Fuhad. You remember quite clearly some weeks ago when we had this conversation that if market forces are the ones to determine prices, then why was the federal government so confident saying that prices won't go up?
You know, it's just a joke. It's a complete joke. You see, Sandra, these things are very simple to understand. It's not rocket science. It's a very simple thing to understand. Look, so far you are going to be importing this product, and it's okay, you want to leave it to market forces to determine and all of that. Look, in every market you always have dominant players who are going to determine things. In one breath you remove subsidy. In another full breath you decided to float the dollars without any plan, no transition plan. You know, that's what the marketers are saying. There are supposed to be transition plans. You see, there are things you do before taking decisions. You don't just jump into a decision without thinking it through. And this government is going to be humble. I'm telling you, we are already getting to a point where they would have to eat the humble pie. There's no other way to eat, Sandra. There's no other way to eat. Even if the Port Harcourt refinery starts working in December, which I doubt, it will still not solve the problem. If you understand what I'm saying, it will still not solve the problem.
Well,
because we are bound by international market pricing.
Okay. All right.
Are you hearing me?
I can hear you clearly. Thank you very much, Fuhad. Well, according to the Guardian newspaper, factors that influence Nigeria's petrol prices, that is according to industry data from marketers: 1, cost of crude oil; 2, distribution and marketing costs and profits; We also have cost of freight and insurance. We also have taxes. These are the things that determines or influences petrol prices. Well, just putting it in perspective.
You know what, Sandra?
Yes.
I think we need to say this. So, because people have always argued, just the same way Mele carried through that very funny argument when we're talking about the need for us to fix our local refineries.
Yes.
Sandra, when our 4 refineries were built, the idea of government at that time was that we're going to get to situations like this, where prices of crude internationally was going to go up, freight charges, a lot of things were going to happen to disrupt pricing. As an oil-producing nation, Sandra, those 4 refineries have the capacity to refine on a daily basis 455,000 barrels of crude oil on a daily basis. Sandra, that will give us millions of liters of refined fuel every day, enough to take care of our domestic needs. Now, the idea of our founding fathers who built those refineries was to ensure that, look, whether we are doing 1.2 million barrels of crude oil per day or 1.8 million barrels or 2 million barrels per day, that 455,000 barrels of crude oil will be reserved for those 4 refineries on a daily basis. There's no dollars attached to that. It's our own crude oil. So it goes into those 4 refineries. We refine with all the naira peculiarities around it, and we price to meet our own local consumption, taking away the impact of forex. So we can create some stability, we can subsidize it with our product as an oil producing nation, and take care of our local needs without being caged by the peculiarities of the international market that comes from forex and all of that. That was why we built those 4 refineries. So we need to ask ourselves, how did we get to a point where, as an oil producing nation, we built 4 refineries, none is working, we are not seeing serious commitment from the government from 1999 till date to fix any of those 4 refineries. Instead, the government gave all of the support in the world to a private individual to build a refinery. Up till now, we don't even have any details about Dangote refinery. So we need to ask ourselves the question, is there a conspiracy against the Nigerian people by people in government? That's the big question we need to ask ourselves.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. We'll move on from that story. More details on pages 6 and 42 of the Guardian newspaper. There's so much to talk about this morning. Let's just quickly run along now. We also have here strike flops in Lagos as workers and banks shun NLC. Fuhad, the 2-day warning strike that was supposed to start yesterday into today, apparently some states didn't, take it serious, like, Lagos.
Some states took it serious. Yeah, it worked in some states. Yeah.
So some states did not take it serious, but the focus here now is the states that didn't take it serious. Say, for example, Lagos, where workers went about their duties, banks went about their duties. But then most states, we have Abuja, Kaduna, Jos, who actually did take it serious. But then, as regards this what would I say, inconsistency, should we call it an inconsistency, or this wave that is going on in NLC where we're supposed to be a collective action, or was supposed to be a collective action, and then we have some people backtracking, or we're not interested, let's just move on. What would you say as regards that?
Well, we saw videos yesterday, some NLC officials trying to ensure that the strike notice is respected by all of their members. We saw them picketing offices, chasing workers out of their offices, to ensure that they all respect the decision of the NLC to go on strike. But like I said, in some states, it was all the flop. People went about their normal, resumed normally, even though there were NLC officials going into different offices to ensure that their decision is respected and the strike goes on as planned. But in some other states, it was total downing of tools. In Abuja, for example, all of the offices were shut. In fact, there were disruptions even to in major, functions of government and all of that. Meetings were cancelled as a result of the NLC strike. The TUC on their own part have said they were not going to be a part of the strike because they feel that the relationship with government is still going on well. But yesterday I listened to 𝗪𝗵𝗲 who was saying they needed not to join the NLC to go on strike. The NLC has a larger member than even TUC. Their members are more. if you understand what I'm saying, than the teach and that look, it's not a problem if they are not on the same page as far as this warning strike is concerned. They are still one and the same organized labor, and they are fighting towards and trying to achieve the same thing. So, but we'll wait to, this is the second day, we'll see what happens today.
Thank you very much. More details on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here, Oyo State Assembly approves Makinde's request to access 50 billion naira loan facility. That's a lot of money, but
loan everywhere.
The Oyo State House of Assembly granted the request of Governor Seyi Makinde to access 50 billion naira revolving overdraft for the development of recurrent and capital expenditures in the state. This is subject to review in line with the prevailing money market conditions, though. But then, Fuhad, 50 billion naira for a state in this, economy. What do you think? Is it worthwhile, as long as it's something that has to do with for the people?
You know what about transparency? Really, it's not a problem to borrow. It's not borrowing is not the problem. But my problem is, most of these states keep borrowing, and you ask yourself, what's on ground really to show for all of this borrowing by these state governors? It's not just for your state.
Hello? Okay. Well, we'll try to reconnect with Saheed Fuhad. This is Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We're looking through major stories on the front pages of the dailies. We were reviewing the Oyo State Assembly approval of Makinde's request to access 50 billion naira facility. And Saheed Fuhad was onto something as regards states and, the borrowing pattern. Yes, let me put it that way. The borrowing pattern of state governments. More details of that on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's keep moving. We also have here, right here on the front page, after 17 billion naira, Bauchi governor scores state low on education, blames civil servants. This is an interesting one. Comes immediately after we're discussing a state borrowing 50 billion. Well, that story is on page 41 of the Guardian newspaper, and it says here that Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed has scored his administration low in the education sector, despite declaring emergency and splashing 17 billion naira on the sector in his first 4 years in office. Fuhad, you can juxtapose both stories. just see what you have to
say. That's self-assessment now. that's self-assessment. So that God is not an external body assessing him now. He's the one assessing himself. Yes, he slashed that amount of money, but were the money deployed appropriately, or it was just about figures and an idea to justify that amount of money was spent? That was the money spent, really. Was it to build new classes, to train new teachers, employ competent hands? We need to ask the governor, how did you spend 17 billion and you are scoring yourself low? If you understand what I'm saying. Because it's not just to now say you have deployed money or you have spent money. How did you spend? Did you spend it the right way? Was it about just building classrooms, or you were using it to do what was really not necessary that would turn things around as far as education is concerned in that country, in that state? So we need to ask the governor how he spent 17 billion and scoring himself low. Did he employ qualified teachers? What did he do with 17 billion? But the credit is self-assessment, and it's left for him to decide how he wants to handle that.
He's blaming people.
Which people?
Civil servants. He said they are the ones that they were trying to frustrate his efforts. That's government officials.
Sorry?
He said, he decried the attitude of some government officials whom he accused of trying to frustrate his efforts in the education sector.
Hello, when he says frustrate, how did he frustrate his effort?
I honestly wouldn't know. He said they've renovated and built over 5,000 classrooms. But then I want to believe that education is way beyond. Yes, is way beyond.
That's what I'm saying now.
But then because he's claiming that it is some government officials were trying to frustrate his efforts. I don't get that. Is that a viable enough excuse? for
So
you
is the
to.
governor lamenting? He doesn't know how to take care of those saboteurs within his government or service. Doesn't know what to do.
We're saying now that
Okay,
the governor cannot account for 17 billion naira.
that's what I'm trying to say. That is it that the man is trying to say that we are spending money, but I can't see the result. They frustrated my effort and all of that. You know, you renovated classrooms and built new ones, fine, for 17 billion. And it's education about structures, really. Yes, of course, you need a very conducive environment for pupils and students to learn from. But it's also about the quality of teachers. What about facilities? Books, you know, laboratories, you know, the things that would help the students, you know, get to that level that you want them to get to, really. I don't know. I think he's the governor, so he needs to sort that out. The lamentation is not for the public. He should be the one to sit back, work with his commissioner to resolve the problem.
Thank you very much, Saheed Fuhad. That's all we can take from the Guardian newspaper. Let's move on to the Punch newspaper. This is still trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Now, the major headline on the front page of the Punch: presidential poll. 𝗵𝗵𝗁 as tribunal decides Atiku-Obi's petitions against Tinubu. And we have riders that says, police block entrance to Court of Appeal, warn politicians against violence. 5 justices decide Atiku and Obi's petitions today. Security agents patrol Abuja. So, just as we mentioned earlier on, it's Judgment Day, and there's a whole lot that a lot of people are looking there's a whole lot that people are looking forward to. Which also happens.
All eyes on the judiciary. Let's just put it that way.
all eyes on judiciary. All eyes on 5 people, actually, because it all boils down to 5 justices. But then, you know, they are representing the judiciary now. It's just a whole lot about whether people can still have that trust in the judiciary. Or what do you think?
I think we need to say this. I think we need to say this, Sandra. And we've always said it. Decisions of the court are not based on sentiments and emotions. It's mainly about how you are able to prove your case, the facts of the matter, some of the technicalities that comes with it, the evidences you are able to provide. You know, it's about facts and evidences, not about sentiments and emotions. And I think, like we said before the elections in February, people need to tone down their expectations. It could go either way. You understand what I'm saying? People need to really, really tone down their expectations, you know. And then we like the fact that the security operatives are out there ensuring that, look, either way the judgment goes today, people remain calm, there's peace in the land, there are no disruptions to lives and properties. And like we've always said, this is not the final level. This is just one level at the appeal court that sits at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. There's still the opportunity at the Supreme Court, which is the final level as far as presidential elections are concerned in the country. So we'll wait to see what happens today. All I can say is that, look, everyone should tone down their expectations. This judgment could go any way. Wherever it goes, we accept it and move to the next level.
Well, thank you very much for there's not much to say as regards this particular one. There's just a lot of expectations from the 3 major parties involved. Well, 4, forgive me. Allied People's Movement, yes, is also a part of it. Yeah, so there's a lot of expectations, reactions, especially from, you know, members of these political parties. But then, just as we mentioned earlier on, Mainland 98.3 FM will be connecting live to the process as soon as it goes on air. And then, of course, by 4 p.m., proper analysis and breakdown of the entire process in the Situation Room with 𝗪𝗵𝗁 𝗪𝗏𝗪. Yes, so join us by then, and you can also share your thoughts as well. Now, the story is on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. Just as Fuhad said, I don't think we can overemphasize. Let's just all manage our expectations and
calm down. Yes, calm down.
I think we'll just leave that. All right, so we have here still on the front page of the Punch newspaper. There's not much story here. Dollar debt, CBN repays banks next week. Naira may rebound. Well, I like the hope in that one. Let's see what we have here. The acting governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, 𝗪𝗪𝗁 𝗪𝗏𝗪, has said CBN will repay banks all outstanding forward contract debts in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Although he did not disclose the total amount of the outstanding dollar debts, But then a United States-based bank in recent report put the total amount to be about $6.84 billion. That's been owed, contract they've been owed by.
Can they pay everything?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can they pay everything in one full swoop?
Is it going to be in
But
tranches? What
they pay,
exactly is happening?
Can they do in tranches?
I
But whatever they pay means that there'll be some liquidity in terms of dollars in our banks. So that will help. So that could of course have an effect on dollars to naira, really.
So you think
but
that
it's not
naira may
sustainable. I don't
rebound?
think to have a long term. Yes, temporarily.
Okay.
It will happen.
All right. Well, we'll look.
It don't last for too long.
All right. We'll look forward to that one. We'll see how things turn out. It said in the next 1 to 2 weeks. We'll see how that will pan out. More details on page 9 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here, fund regional rail projects. Federal government tells governors. What?
I'm with you.
Regional rail projects by state
Hello?
governors.
Yes. The ones that are not fixing in our road, state roads. Regional rail projects. Well,
Or maybe they should come together.
Or
maybe they should come together and do it together. I don't know what the federal government is trying to say, but then
there's this common saying that 2 heads are better than one. But it all depends on the kind of head that are coming together. If you understand, 2 heads are better than one. But I agree. But it depends,
that's why people say it's 2 good heads. They don't just say 2 heads. You don't just say 2 heads.
Okay.
Nowadays it's 2 good heads.
These governors that are not 2 good heads. Okay, they used to be 2 heads are better than one. So, but what I'm saying is, some governors who can't pay salaries, a lot of their states are in serious debt. They can't generate enough internal revenue. They can't even fix their own infrastructure. For them to now begin to think of regional rail projects, I think it's a tall one for them to achieve, really. I think what we should do, the target we should give to our governors first, is to ensure that they even pay salaries, pay pensions as and when due, pay the required minimum wage,
and give us our rice.
Internal routes and which rice? If you want rice, for people who want rice, yes, let the governors give them the rice. I'm not part of people that want rice or pray that rice should be given to people. I really don't want to see my people living beggarly life, Sandra. Where rice and beans are now struggle, for and all of that. But for regional route for governors, I think we're just wasting of time. They can't even achieve it.
Well,
how many years did it take us to do blue rice rail in Lagos? Almost 20 years.
Well, the federal government has charged state governments in various geopolitical zones to pool funds together and develop railways in their regions to improve trade and regional integration. Well, I mean, just as Fuhad had mentioned earlier on, it took 40 years and about 4 to 5 different administrations, I think, yeah, about 4 to 5 or so, to actually pull off, the blue rail line. But then, who knows? Maybe, just as Fuhad said, like these 2 good heads are better than one. Maybe, say for example, all the 7 states in 7, yes, all the 7 states in the Southwest come together, and then they say, okay, let's do something within the Southwest region and put some things together. But we'll see if that what Fuhad said is a tall order, whether or not it is. It's just an advice, anyways, from the Minister of Transportation, saying that state governments should partner each other to develop their transportation infrastructure, as this would go a long way in addressing concerns in the transport sector. More details on page 17 of the Punch newspaper. All right, that's all we can take from the Punch. Thank you very much. Let's move on now to Vanguard newspaper. This is still trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. Now, looking at the major headline on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, it says here, strike halts activities in rivers, Osun, Edo, Kano, Kaduna, and Cross River. And we have riders that says, records partial compliance in Lagos, Abuja, Ogun, Delta, Ekiti, and Kebbi. Power disruption looms as workers shut down Oshogbo Transmission Company. Banks, courts shut as Anambra NLC joined strike. Strike stalls election tribunal ruling in Edo, commercial activities and others. Day one met our objectives, says Joe Ajaero, NLC chairman. Adds day two to send stronger signals. So, Fuhad, whether or not it met the expectations of, the NLC, because
the signals have been sent.
Yes.
This is the most important.
Okay, all right.
Abby, if it's about sending signals, I'm sure the signals have been sent. So whether people they are sending the signals to are taking them serious is another question entirely. You understand what I'm saying? Because again, the report from some of our colleagues outside Lagos is that yes, some states were grounded. Movements were affected. Government offices were shut. NLC officials were around trying to enforce the strike order and all of that. So the signals have been sent. We hope that the government would take the signals seriously and find a way to resolve some of these issues.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. Well, as it is here, speaking on the strike, the president of NLC, Joe Ajaero, expressed delight over the level of compliance. He said, and I'm quoting, "We are very happy with the level of compliance. I can tell you that day one of the warning strike met our objectives. We believe that day two will send a stronger signal to the federal government that we are determined to ensure our members and other Nigerians do not continue to suffer the bad policies of our government." Well, good. Well, we'll see how today's will pan out, I guess, and see if at the end of the day it does actually meet the objectives of or expectations of NLC. All right. Still on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, we have here fuel subsidy interests fighting us. That's coming from Vice President Kashim Shettima, and that story is on page 22 of Vanguard newspaper. So just very quickly, the Vice President raised the alarm that those who lost out as a result of the removal of subsidy are determined to frustrate federal government policies and programs. He, however, insisted that the removal of subsidy is irrevocable. What?
Okay, we hear. You see, when people don't want to tell themselves the truth, this is what you get. Because I listened to the Vice President yesterday. He kept saying, people who have lost out in the subsidy battle, they are trying to fight back. They will not allow it. Subsidy removal is irrevocable. It has come to stay. Okay, it has come to stay. But if you read the Guardian newspaper, you understand that, look, it's not about anybody fighting back. It's about the reality now. The reality of making sure that there are some steps you take before you take a decision. You don't put the cart before the horse. You see, these things are supposed to be procedural, Sandra. You don't just take decisions. Now, who is fighting back now? Okay, so the price of crude in the international community, it is the subsidy people that are fighting back. The price of PMS that is going up in the international community, it is the people that are benefiting from subsidy that are fighting back. The refineries that are not working, so it is the people that are benefiting from subsidy that are fighting back. The dollar that is rising, it is people that are fighting back. Those are all of the inefficiencies of government fighting back. The failure of government fighting back. The lack of capacity of government fighting back. The lack of proper thinking of government fighting back. It is nobody fighting back. It is the fact that the government is not doing the right thing that is fighting back. And I think the government needs to accept that fact that it is their failure that is fighting back. And that is making Nigerians suffer needlessly. So we'll see how it goes with this subsidy thing. Whether it's come to stay or not.
Or whether it's irrevocable.
Standard.
Or whether
that subsidy. If you read that Guardian newspaper report very well, fantastic report. Subsidy is back quietly. When it will now be made official that subsidy is back, is where we are waiting for. The government would have to by themselves now announce that because of this factor, we are now bearing the margin and bearing the cost of subsidy. So now means anyways, so government is not about hypocrisy or sloganeering. It's about sitting down to do the right thing and taking critical decisions from proper thinking.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. Well, more details of that on page 22 of Vanguard newspaper. Also, yesterday, what happened at Mile 2? One killed as task force truck drivers and touts clash at Mile 2. And the story is on page 7 of Vanguard newspaper. So there were protesting truck drivers yesterday barricaded the 𝗪𝗶𝗃 expressway over alleged killing of one of their colleagues by a policeman attached to the Lagos State Task Force. Report has it that the task force team arrived at Mile 2 in the early hours of yesterday to impound trucks that usually block the axis that deprives other motorists access. And the team was said to have sighted a truck stationed. Attempts by the policemen to tow the truck were reportedly resisted by the driver, who has been identified as 𝗁𝗵𝗃, as he was said to have insisted that he was pouring water into the radiator of his truck. But then eyewitnesses said while he was struggling with one of the policemen, another allegedly shot him from behind. And now
the police officers, I don't know.
Mental health check. What do you want to say?
So many issues, so many people. Mental health is one of it. It's just because again, one would have thought that they've learned from the 𝗪𝗀𝗃 protest, what happened during the 𝗪𝗀𝗃. You know, and you see the IG, the last IG and the new one, trying to read the riot act, apprehending erring policemen, dismissing them, some of them getting some serious punishment, but it doesn't seem to solve the problem. You understand what I'm saying? You still keep having this trigger happy policemen killing innocent Nigerians. I don't know, really. What reforms we need in the police has become a big problem to get these people to behave properly. I agree that there's mental health issue, but I think it's also beyond that, really. It's a systemic problem as far as policing is this country. Maybe a reflection of our very, sad society now where everything has just gone south. It's unfortunate, really.
Well, that particular action has now sparked up protest as truck drivers started burning tires and a lot has
arrest
happened.
Me, you don't arrest me. Why do you have to shoot someone? I don't even understand.
He said he's pouring water in his radiator, and I pour his water.
Whatever he was even doing, whatever he could have been doing, there was no reason to have shot him. He's not armed. Was it an armed driver? Was he carrying arms?
He was pouring water in his radiator.
So why then shoot?
Maybe they were scared of the water.
Scared of, okay. And then you shoot him. It's just ridiculous, really.
Trying to make sense of it. But
you can't. Doesn't even make any sense.
Unfortunately, we don't have so much time. Well, more details of that on page 7. Of course, the rest of the story is all political as regards the presidential poll and the presidential election petitions court due to happen today. But then there's this very interesting headline here, just a second or two. Our founding fathers won independence but failed to build a nation. That statement, what do you think of it, Fuhad? Just very quickly, we don't have so much time. That's coming from former President Goodluck Jonathan.
Our founding fathers did their best. Yes, they did their best. If you talk about founding fathers, in light of their reality at that time, they did their best. Got independence from the colonial masters. We had regional government, a lot of achievements from our regional leaders. The late 𝗪𝗵𝗲 𝗦𝗃𝗍, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Ahmadu Bello, Tafawa Balewa. These were nationally who, within their own capacity at that time, was able to build the foundation that one had thought that these so-called modern leaders would build on. So if it's about not building a nation, what has then these new leaders done? We need to ask ourselves. The little that those ones build, did these ones consolidate on it? Yes, there was this argument yesterday from that forum, a book launch from a particular professor, I don't have his name in my head now, where it was being said that yes, we are just a mere geographical expression, Nigeria does not really exist, and as leaders, whether founding fathers or this present one, we have not been able to really come together as a nation. But you can't put all of the blame on our founding fathers. They did their own best. These current leaders, what are they doing? They are further dismantling the union, not even bringing it together. We are even more divided than before.
Well, Well, that's all we can take, unfortunately. Well, more details of that story on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. That's all we can take, unfortunately, for this morning. But then stay with us. We'll just take a short break, and we'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus. I see here that the lawyers are already converging in the courtroom for for the proceedings. It's an interesting one. See how it's turning out. As soon as it starts, of course, we are sure you will try to keep you up to speed. But then for analysis and breakdown, we'll meet by
4 p.m.
We'll meet by 4 p.m. Okay, but then stay with us. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus.